You're tuned in to Shop Talk, presented by RaceOnTexas.com. Here's your host, Caleb McFarland.
Thanks for joining us on our pilot episode of Shop Talk. That's right, I am your host, Caleb McFarland, and the gentlemen sitting with me here at the table, Mr. Chris David and Harry Fair with RaceOnTexas. Great to have y'all here, and it is great to be able to start this podcast and really break something new here at the end of 2020.
Yeah, Caleb, we're excited about it. I think it'll be a fun thing, and we appreciate you coming on board to put this all together for us. I think we'll have some other cool guest hosts and things like that as we move throughout. So excited to have you a part of it.
And yeah, that's the to kind of explain this a little bit to y'all that are tuning in with us. Idea came up literally when we were just sitting around racing go-karts at a local establishment in Baytown and talking with a gentleman that drives sprint cars. I asked him afterwards, I said, hey, do you think you'd be interested in, doing a podcast if we might put something together? He says, yeah, I'm down. So I talked to Chris got with Harry, and folks, now here we are with RaceOnTexas' first podcast, and we are really excited about this thing. The essence of it is going to be just exactly what the name is, Shop Talk. Just like you're sitting around in the shop, leaning on the race car, drinking a few beverages, and just shooting the breeze, chewing the fat, and that's what we're doing here. And we're going to start delving into some of the things that we did with RaceOnTexas this year. We launched Speed Pass, totally new, different aspect away from the on-demand that we've been doing for the years. So if you would, explain a little bit on what ended up becoming of Speed Pass and the whole essence of behind it, and essentially how it took off and went through the roof.
Yeah, 2020 was a challenging year, obviously, for everybody, and we saw the struggle early on with racetracks not knowing what to do and how to handle and seeing doors shut. I think that's when a live video provider really kind of came to essence of we can help and we want to help and we're set up to help. And we started with Ray Doyon early on in the pandemic and at I-37, and they put on a program that was pay-per-view only, fairly unique. And from there, we had a lot of people come to us, and Aaron from Cotton Bowl Speedway approached us and says, I think I have a platform that might work. And at first, we were not a fan of the idea. We had done 17 live shows in 2019, and we finished just about 100 live shows in 2020. So we took a huge jump. It was a lot of people, a lot of moving parts, and we really thank the tracks. And I think the tracks really are seeing the benefit of that relationship with us now, and the fact that we're able to give 50% before we even talk about expenses, but 50% of the revenue directly back to the tracks that they choose when they sign up for Speed Pass.
And that's right, because the on-demand is $9.99 and the Speed Pass, correct me where I'm wrong, $39.99. And so half of that goes directly back to the track that you select as your, quote, home track or whatever track you want it to go to. 50% of that goes right to them, no ifs, ands, buts, whatever. One check every month to each track.
Yeah, it's that simple. $39.99 is $20 of that, exactly, actually. So more than 50%, as I correct myself. So $20 goes back to every track every month. We give them a full report of who's tuning in, and it gives them a chance to have some interest and really some skin in the game, too, for their programs, and having a media provider that can stream every race for them and be able to help them with commercials and video and content and things like that. So
in the beginning of COVID, it was at the core just another revenue stream to keep the tracks open, right?
Right.
We didn't want anybody closing down. So if there was a way we could get involved, and again, there was no planning involved in this at all. We were trying to expand our equipment and how the program was to operate while we're launching it. So it was definitely a challenge in the beginning.
So you mentioned one key word right there, equipment, something that you know very well with all of the different packs that we have across the state and in Louisiana. So what kind of challenge did that bring to you, Harry, as far as having to get more live packs set up and just kind of get things rocking and rolling right out of the gate?
So the proof of concept was there. I-37, I think, was a success. And from there, we had more interest in other tracks. And so we're trying to get equipment ordered and things bought along with everybody else in the country, switching to live only, right? So it was definitely a commitment from us capital wise, trying to get all this equipment ordered, everything set up and ready to go. And while you're, trying to accommodate all these races every weekend. So I think we did a pretty good job at phasing it in over a few months and getting everything ordered. We're looking at doing some more upgrades in this off season to do additional shows. 2020 was definitely a learning experience, and we're excited. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and to kind of put a number figure on it, if you can, Chris, if you know off the top of your head, with launching Speed Pass and giving back to the racetracks and bringing the money right back to the community, about how much, with just this first year of Speed Pass, were we able to kind of kick back into racing on the local level?
Yeah, so off the top of my head, I don't know that full number dating back to May, but last month of November here, we gave close to $7,000 in 1 month back to the track. So it's cool to be able to spread that around. It's cool to be able to see them have some revenue stream when maybe they didn't even race. So they didn't open their doors because they got rained out at the end of the season, or their season's over, and they're still able to have revenue stream, because at the end of the day, we know when that maintainer breaks, or when those light bulbs need to be replaced, or there's grandstands that need to be repaired, those things require money. And when you're not making money, especially if you were closed for part of 2020, it's hard to make those things happen.
Yeah, we know that has been one big discussion throughout the first half of the season was, how are we going to be able to get to racetracks? Are we going to get to race? And, thankfully, by the grace of God, everything did work out for all the drivers, track owners, and RaceOnTexas in general, to be able to bring the service to people and bring racing to their home for those that couldn't go out and watch the racing. So that way they could kind of maintain a little bit of normalcy through what a year 2020 has been, to say the least. And, that's kind of where we're at now. But it's always kind of one of those things that's always good to look back at to where you've been. And, I don't think that we've had this conversation directly, or also I don't think that a lot of people know this in general. So breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Where did you get the idea to start RaceOnTexas? And I mean, did you ever see it going this far?
So, Caleb, that's a great question about how we got started. And, 2015 is where this thing took off, and a lot of people don't know the story, and we don't really look for the spotlight here. Harry and I are very proud of the people and the team that we've built around us, and that are really talented announcers and videographers and editors. But in 2012, we began asphalt racing together at Houston Motorsports Park, and we grew up dirt track racing, watching my dad race in Alvin, Texas, and modified midgets. And I always had a passion for racing, and I always had a passion for cameras. I went to school for radio and television for 4 years at Sam Houston State, got a degree, loved it, just didn't want to go in that industry full time. So when we were racing in 2012, my wife filmed every race, and at that point, she would just upload them to YouTube, and a lot of people like that at HMP, and we work closely with them to help them produce some commercials and things like that. And when we hung up that part of the racing career, I wanted to do something with video and racing, and I saw how tracks would have DVDs for sale or VHSs, and I was thinking there's got to be a better way to digitize this and build a library, and we like to film, and so we started filming it. Our first live broadcast was in 2015, actually at 105 Speedway, and so in the cold, and we learned a lot. We took a lot of risks. We spent a lot of money that we didn't have. We took a lot of time away from our families and really trying to build this into something, and we got more and more tracks calling us, and we got more and more people onboarding and editing, and we spent a lot of time on the road, a lot of time videoing, doing everything ourselves, and slowly turned it into something. And then it was like, well, let's start doing more live shows, and we teamed up with people like Brad and Jack at the Lone Star 600, and they really enjoyed what we were doing for them, and we wanted to really get back to racing because we love racing. And, Harry and I both have jobs that pay well. We don't do this for the money. And people always say, I don't believe that. And I said, ask our wives. They'll tell you. We don't do it for the money. And we spend a lot of time behind the scenes. But we have really good people, a good team of people that are out there, represent us and wear our shirts. And those are the people that are the true superstars of what we do. We've just tried to help build the platform. And it was one of those things where I had the idea, I had the video knowledge, but I had no idea how to do any of this stuff, right? I don't know how to build a website. And that's where Harry and his background was just invaluable, because we basically took our two talents and kind of mesh them together. Harry being very good at IT, and me having more of an understanding of video and maybe a little bit of marketing. And so there's RaceOnTexas, and we launched in 2015, and I don't see any slowing down. We've grown every year. We've kept our foot on the gas pedal, and we've upgraded. We've made changes. We've learned. We've lost, and we've won. And so we've figured it out. But we keep putting the same effort that we put in from day one. Today, right now.
And just to kind of, I have one word that kind of pops in my head as far as business-wise goes, as to what the feeling would be. But, looking back 5 years ago, doing all the grunt work and now it growing to be, I guess we could pretty much just say a pinnacle multimedia broadcast company within our region of the country, to be able to kind of sit back and coach and guide and kind of just oversee everything. To me, it's surreal when I think of my own company, my own business, and just kind of, hey, look, go do this today, and it get done. You just manage it. But is it surreal, or is it kind of something that just kind of really hasn't hit yet, that it's still just kind of rolling through, I guess you could say?
That's a great question. I don't think it's ever really hit, because we're always doing so much more.
We never sit back and stop. We're always like 2020, going from 17 shows to over 100-ish. And that was just part of the year. That wasn't even the beginning of the season. So no, I think we're always trying to see what we can do better and upgrade equipment and make better relationships, build relationships with new tracks, and keep going, keep the foot on the gas.
And just like you say there, that's not even a full season that we jumped from 17 to 100. That's pretty much just May.
Yeah,
May to November.
May.
And
it's a lot like owning a 410 sprint car, right? So we go on the road. We do 100 shows a year. We go nonstop, and then in the off season, is where the work's done, and we're upgrading equipment. We're testing new software features. We're on conference calls about new technology that's out there, and that's. It doesn't stop, it's here we are. I want to do a podcast. Well, let's do it. That's the one thing that we always try to do is, heck yeah, we want to be a part of that. And we want to enable people that have talents like you, Caleb, to be able to do this stuff and put it on a platform that people can see it and hear it and appreciate it. And I think, that's what makes it fun, is that we want to make Texas and Louisiana, we want to be local. We are local, and we want to promote local racing. I don't care if you're in a tuner or a super late model. We want to cover it, and every lap, every class has always kind of been our motto. And it's been, you can just almost add all local behind that, because that's who we are. We're not a big national company. We're not chasing tracks and dollar signs in other parts of the country. We've even been approached for those things. We want to keep it local. We love what we do in the backyards of where we go watch racing.
And that's exactly right. That we can even break down the analytics and look at the subscribers that we have in certain areas and where they funnel everything to as far as their racing programs, their sponsorship dollars, and giving back to the community on their own. And then yet here we are, you have the guy that, may never make it to victory lane just because, he may be bound by finances or something like that, with equipment wise, but, he's able to get seen through on demand, through racing in the middle of the pack or wherever he's at. And it all kind of comes back in a way to keeping it local, keeping it consistent, all the way from the gentleman or lady on the racetrack, all the way to RaceOnTexas, to website, and just putting it out there. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really understand, that it reaches further than just what you may see or what you may hear on the racetrack or on-demand video or live broadcast, because your car is getting time. Your sponsors on the car are getting time, and anyone that's been in racing knows how that relationship that you have with sponsors goes a really long way when you're able to get them that exposure. And one of the things that I know that we've really been fortunate enough to be able to do company wise is be able to give back to the big races and help with purses, to be able to help see that come together and how it just transpires. And that's why I use the phrase of it's surreal, because when you start looking at everything, you start connecting the dots, it's just like, whoa,
Yeah, it's got kind of so when you say it like that, yeah, I mean the network that we've built and the brand recognition and that what people know who we are, and I like, my favorite thing to see is when they tag someone and say, hey, you made the highlight reel.
Right.
You made the highlight reel. You know, like that's pretty cool to see, and to see guys, and maybe in a crate late model feature at Boot Hill Speedway, and I just ran them Saturday night, we go upload that few last laps and you see it get 200,000 views. That's pretty cool, because you start thinking of that's 200,000 devices that watched a part of this video and organically, without any sponsored boost money or anything like that. You look at that and you're like, man, that's pretty cool to see that many people get that kind of exposure. And I don't know, it's hard to do. We all know how hard clicks are to get and views are to get, and so to see that might be a kind of a surreal moment.
So to kind of digress for a second, I didn't know this about y'all, that y'all used to race at HMP and run asphalt. So I've got to ask, who drove and who was the crew guy?
So I drove. I tried to drive. I always tell people I wasn't a very good driver. We ran for almost 4 or 5 consecutive seasons, 4 points. Finished 6th in points, always in the top 10 in points. And then Harry spotted for me.
Yep. No clue what I was doing, but I tried.
There's a car over there. Well, yeah, you're by him.
And so Harry's background and being in college was a 911 dispatcher. He's got a very calming voice, and to be able to have that. So there's actually, you go back on YouTube and you can go look at an old racing video where we, of course, because I fidgeted with cameras, this is pre-RaceOnTexas, and had an in-car camera hooked up with the audio so you could actually hear Harry spotting, and that's pretty cool to go back and watch. And my dad crew chiefed for us, and we ran competitively. We enjoyed it. We had a 2nd and a 3rd place finish, and it was fun, but it was something that we reached a point where it was expensive and it was selfish, and we were just coming to a point in our life, both of us, Harry and I, where we were having kids. So it was one of those things where we just hung it up, and here's RaceOnTexas, and I tell Harry all the time, I hope maybe one day our kids can get behind a camera and have a job, because it's kind of the family business now, I guess, right?
And not necessarily, only getting behind the camera. What about getting behind the wheel? I mean, they were, all 4 of them were running around earlier, so what are the odds of that happening, I mean, do they show an interest in it, or is it just kind of...
They like to go to the racetrack. They like cars. Marion Newman took the boys around in the water truck. Her husband H did, and they thought that was the coolest thing ever. And so we talked actually about taking them to the World of Outlaws this year. So I think when we go do something like that, I think is where you're going to see it, because they're 8 years old and they're not quite there where they're really, really interested in it. But I don't think I'd shy away from it. I don't think the wives would like it, but that's we'll see.
Well, that could be one of those things where we just ask for forgiveness rather than permission. I'm sorry I bought it. I mean, they wanted it, but I can't return it.
Yeah, so they'll get the bug, and hopefully we can maybe get them behind the camera too, and give them a purpose and a cool job to have maybe when they're in high school.
We'll put them on a little stool and let them start early. I mean, and speaking of starting early, here we are towards the end of 2020, and as y'all said, a lot of the background work occurs during the off season. So what are some of the things that everyone that tunes into RaceOnTexas can be looking forward to through the end of the year, and also moving forward for when racing starts in 21?
Harry can probably talk to some of the technology that we're looking at and the investments that we're making.
Sure, we're definitely looking at launching a platform of apps, so it's easier to access all the content from your phone, favorite device, TV. Everyone loves being able to pull up a race on your Roku or smart TV and have an HD quality, awesome stream right there at your fingertips. So we're working on that, upgrading equipment, cameras, better quality cameras, better picture. That's always great. So we're definitely committed. We want to make it better for everybody, and we'll see what happens.
So if we kind of had to, I'm not too sure what schedules look like, so what would we say would be our first production of 21? I mean, is there anything in particular that we're already kind of booked for, that people can kind of start getting their eyes and ears out for, or is it just kind of a wait and see what happens with next year as far as, racetracks opening up and
Sure.
COVID part 2?
Yeah, we've already met with a lot of tracks and a lot of promoters and had conversations, and we're going to do a lot of fun stuff with RPM Speedway in Crandell this year. I'm really excited to work with Kevin Rogers and Kevin Sester, and we're going to help them produce an after show. So you're kind of getting a little bit of breaking news there after each one of their events. And so the big first show, though, to go back to the original question, it was his hands down. It's Texas Motor Speedway in the Southern Dirt Track Championship, and so that will happen the February, I believe, 4th through the 8th, and that will be a huge event, a big production. We'll be producing that alongside with Racing Dirt, with having the USMTS versus the USRA kind of IMCA modified showdown. So that's a fun event, and we've enjoyed working that event. Unfortunately, COVID has pushed it back, but Chase Allen and his wife Erin do a tremendous job with that show. And but yeah, no, we've got a lot of big shows. I think we'll definitely eclipse probably 125, 150 live shows next year. So with Harry talked about, with equipment and more multicam shows that we're looking at. But multicam means multi-man. And so we always want to make sure that we have the best people plugged in, and we have some very talented people. So yeah, next year is only going to be bigger and better. And if all goes well, we'll have an app to announce here soon. And
for those that don't really purchase or get to watch any of the live pay-per-views and things like that, when you say multicam, like, explain a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, on the different camera angles and things like that, and how that comes together to make a more, I guess you could say, I don't want to say professional.
Kind of like a broadcast,
like an ESPN style.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's a good way to say it. So
we're always looking for that, and we want the experience of the customer to be seamless. We want them to sit at home and feel like they're watching something on ESPN. And a lot of the big providers do a really good job at it. The difference between them and us is that they're doing a good job at it once a weekend at a big event. We're trying to do it 7 times a weekend at 6 different tracks. So having multiple live shows run concurrently, which right now we averaged like 2.5 live shows every Friday and Saturday. Yep. Plenty of nights where we were doing 3 and 3 or 3 and 4 on a weekend of live shows. So multi-cam just basically means you've got to have 2 more people there at least, and to operate another camera, and then somebody there to switch and to roll graphics and things like that. And we love that kind of production, and we strive to do that at all of our big events, and we do that at all of our big events. But we're trying to expand that and have kind of maybe a featured show every weekend where there's one track that we're live at that gets a little more production behind it, and then the other tracks, typical, where we try to make sure we have excellent HD video and excellent HD audio, and it's reliable stream. That's the biggest thing that people don't understand, is how hard it is to get a reliable stream through cellular connections, because just like when your cell phone doesn't work well in the pits, well, we're trying to get an HD stream up, for up to 8 hours consistently. And so Harry's very good at it, and we pride ourselves on having reliable broadcasts. And for the most part, our uptime and deficiencies in that is very low.
So, as we're kind of wrapping up on our time that we have with you today, put you on the spot. For those that don't know, we watch a lot of racing footage throughout the year. Several different races going on each track. Someone's having to cut highlight videos from those races. Sometimes it's Chris, Harry, Anthony, one of our many other video editors and producers that we have with the company. So from what y'all have seen, to kind of put you on the spot, what would be, I guess you could say, one race that just sticks out as far as when you're going through the clips, you're like, holy cow?
Honestly, a couple. It's sad.
Well, we asked for one.
105 Texas Grand. And you were on the call there. That was the young gun in the limited modified feature. Going after the Howard Willis, and the story kind of behind that race, and the story behind Howard Willis in that race, and just the great side-by-side racing in the last few laps. And you could tell the anticipation, and the crowd was electric, which you don't see a lot at 105. So I think all of those things, I didn't expect it to come from a place like that, but might be my favorite clip. And we're actually going to be launching here in about a week. I don't know when this will air, but before New Year's, you'll see the best of 2020.
Okay.
So we're going to have some cool clips of one most popular and some of our editors' favorites, and to talk about how much footage we have. We're right about 7 terabytes of footage So if you want to watch Race on Texas and say, oh, well, I can't find anything I like to watch there, we have 7 terabytes dating back to 2015. And I'm going to shout out to Tony, who's right now working on our project. We're offloading a lot of 2015 and 2016,
onto YouTube, right?
2016 footage. So go on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit like, follow us, because we're going to be dumping more and more exclusive content on there. And there's no charge to watch it. It's the same quality, and it's just a way for us to say, hey, we don't think we need to be charging people to watch this anymore, so enjoy it, and go have a good time sharing with your friends and things like that. So that's pretty cool. So go check that out if you can.
Harry, got one?
I don't know. There's so many good ones.
And that's the hardest part, is picking one.
I mean, Boot Hill put on a really good show at the Dirt Track Championship there,
right.
Watching all those cars. Golly, they get so many up there. It's crazy. It's crazy, and it's a good thing, having that many cars. But then you get a 6-hour live show, and it's hard staying up that late for the big shows at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. But they got some awesome races this year from over there at Good Hill. So
I guess we can go ahead and we'll just keep breaking news. I mean, we talked about how the company started and now how we got to where we are. But, one of the things as far as where we're going that I'm going to say probably about 8 people know about, and 3 of them are in the room, and the other 5 are those that got interviewed for it. But we're actually working on putting together a documentary on the 25 years of the Texas Grand, featuring a lot of drivers that have been racing it for many years, as well as a few of the young guns. And one of those young guns was Corey Neal Jr., and talking with Corey beforehand in the pits, literally probably about 4 hours, I guess you could say, before securing his name in history as winning his first Texas Grand. I asked him, as far as what's your favorite race in memory, and he mentioned, a race at Boot Hill, and then to come through and in that fashion race that hard with Howard Willis. I'd be willing to argue that if we went and recorded again, he may probably end up changing that answer. But, the culmination of that night and that moment to make that feature just become something bigger than what it was, I guess you could say. And I mentioned it on the call, is, you have one of the best veterans up there, and running right there with him is one of the most talented up-and-coming young guns. I mean, he's 16, 17 years old and out there in a world on his own with Howard Willis, and it's crazy. I mean, it really is. And so when you say that was your favorite of the year, that at least one that sticks out, that I got to agree with you, because, I've got to know Corey and his family and his Uncle Chad, Brandy, and them over the years from helping out with a stock car team. And to get to see all of that hard work from the weekend come to fruition, and that just great moment on that stage, it's crazy. It really is just, I know that's the only word I can find to explain it, is just, it's crazy.
But not to sound cliche, but that's kind of why we do this. I mean,
we can be cliche, Chris.
There's a story behind it, right?
Right, exactly.
And those are the stories that we strive to tell, the local stories, the local guys, man, that are out there grinding. And, you may not go 100 miles away and be able to, people may not know those drivers' names, but we want them to know those drivers' names, right?
Platform,
and give them the place to do that, and not just come in and broadcast a big race and head out the door, right? I mean, those other companies do a great job. They're incredible broadcasts, but we're here when they're gone.
Right. That's exactly right.
So we're always here, and we always want to spread that good news of local racing and what's going on in the Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas kind of corridor.
And that really kind of wraps us back to and segues to the whole purpose of this podcast, is essentially the best I can try to find to explain it, is finding out the what's what of the who's who with people involved in racing with Texas and Louisiana, and getting to hear those racing stories that they'll sit in the shop while they're, working on the car. Hey, remember that time earlier this season? And, getting to hear, I was fortunate enough to be, at the Texas Grand after the pits. I went back there and chatting with Kenny Wallace, and he and Howard Willis were talking for at least an hour and a half, just one-on-one, just telling old racing stories and going back and forth. And, everybody's just kind of on edge just listening to the knowledge and laughing at the fun jokes. And anytime anyone watches any one of the Kenny Wallace videos, anytime he brings out the Herman, there were a lot of Hermans thrown that night, and it made it really cool to kind of get to see that inside look into somebody's racing career and their stories behind it. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to, and I know you gentlemen are as well, of looking forward to be able to bring to light and kind of bring into a little bit of history that people have accrued and I guess you could say made. History is made over their racing careers, and some short, some long. But so be sure to tune in to Shop Talk. We're going to be launching at least 1 to 2 episodes a week. Sometimes we may have a part 2. Just kind of depends here and there on what we have going on and who we're able to sit down with that week and chew the fat with. Well, gentlemen, it was great to have y'all on the pilot episode of Shop Talk. I'm very fortunate and blessed and thankful for y'all to allow me to have this outlet and opportunity to go chase down these racing stories and really kind of keep everyone engaged during the off season with everything going on with RaceOnTexas, as well as what's going on in the shops of some of their local heroes. So tune in next time. We look forward to hearing back from you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, shoot us a message, shoot us an email, and we will do our best to make it happen. As always, when I end every announcing broadcast that I do, I am Caleb McFarland. Thank you and good night.